The question I get asked about most often is sunscreen, a loaded topic if there ever was one. Controversies around which sunscreen to use, how often, are they safe, how do they impact your vitamin D levels, cream versus aerosols, chemical filters versus good old zinc oxide. Let me try and help you navigate through this minefield. First up, what is SPF? SPF is a measure of how well a sunscreen will protect the skin from UVB rays, the kind of radiation that causes sunburn, damages skin, and which can contribute to skin cancer. So if your skin would normally burn after 10 minutes in the sun, applying an SPF 15 sunscreen would allow you to stay in the sun without burning for approximately 150 minutes, so 15 times longer. It is also important to know that SPF has been determined by applying an amount of sunscreen equivalent to 2 milligrams per square centimeter of skin, or about a shot glass full of sunscreen per application, and that it needs to be reapplied every 2 hours. To put that into perspective, during a long day at the beach, one person should use around a half to a quarter of a 250 ml bottle. It will then be very clear that most people use only about a quarter or even half of the amount required. So what this means is that if you use too little sunscreen, an SPF of 30 will actually only give you a sunburn protection of 2.3. In the real world, these products are less effective than a t-shirt, which generally has an SPF or UPF of 5. Far too little in our harsh South African sun. So as a rule, I recommend a sunscreen with at least an SPF of 30, applied generously and with frequent reapplication. It is also important to know that though it sounds like there may be a big difference, the discrepancy in UVB protection between an SPF of 30 and 50 is very little. While an SPF of 30 blocks out 96.7% of UV radiation, an SPF of 50 will filter 98% of UV. It is also essential to have good UVA cover. No good to be protected from UVB so that you aren't burning and going red, but allowing those dangerous UVA rays through. This can be found on your sunscreen packaging as a star rating 0 to 5. The latest research is now showing the importance of protection also from visible light. You can even get DNA damage from LED lighting and from your computer screen. So wear that sunscreen even if you're indoors. So now that you know that you should be wearing sunscreen year-round, indoors and outdoors, which one is safe enough to be applied so frequently to the entire family? The answer lies in the distinction between physical sunscreens and chemical filters. Chemical sunscreens contain filters which absorb the UV rays and then convert and give the energy back out as heat. The most common filters are oxybenzone, avobenzone, octacylate, octocrylene, homosalate, and octinoxate. Physical or mineral sunscreens, on the other hand, just sit on the surface of the skin and just reflect the sun's rays away from the skin. These contain zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as their active ingredients. Some sunscreens are combinations of the two. Besides the fact that chemical sunscreens can cause allergic reactions on the skin, more importantly, it's been reported that there are endocrine disruptors, meaning that they are messing with your hormones and can affect your reproductive and thyroid systems. Even more alarming is that sunscreens commonly contain ingredients which act as penetration enhancers to help the product stick to the skin and be absorbed more deeply into the skin. A study in Zurich found oxybenzone and 4 other chemical sunscreen filters in 85% of breast milk samples of nursing mothers after applying sunscreen. So my recommendation would be to avoid any sunscreen with oxybenzone. And worryingly, this chemical has been found to be added to nearly 65% of the non-mineral sunscreens in the Environmental Working Group's 2018 sunscreen database. Oxybenzone and, in fact, octinoxate are most likely going to be banned in Hawaii as it is destroying their coral just from washing off the bodies of swimmers. Something that toxic being applied to your skin? No thank you. Thankfully, octocrylene is one of the safer chemical filters, and now there are the newer UV filters such as Mexeril and Tinosorb, which are safer and which are not estrogenic. With mineral or physical sunscreens, here too there are a couple of things to watch out for. Because these sunscreens are less cosmetically acceptable and harder work to rub in, certain companies have done something called microionized or nano zinc, which means that they have made the particles smaller so that you can rub them in a little easier. But this also means that they can potentially get absorbed systemically. Sunscreens in aerosol form, physical or chemical, are also not a good idea. As convenient as they are, you do not want those particles in the lungs. So the bottom line for my choice of sunscreen, you are looking for non-nano zinc, mineral or physical sunscreen. And if you go for a chemical filter, read the ingredient label. Look for Tinosorb, Mexeril or octocrylene. Apply your sunscreen generously and apply it frequently, every 2 hours. My suggestion is to apply sunscreen 20 minutes before going out in the sun and then again shortly after heading outdoors to cover any missed patches and to make sure you're wearing a sufficient layer. Now for the vitamin D debate. I understand that there is good evidence that vitamin D helps to keep bones healthy and that vitamin D may help to prevent serious diseases such as cancer, various forms of arthritis and autoimmune diseases. But there are still so many unanswered questions, including whether enough vitamin D can be made from sunlight on our skin to reduce the risk of getting these diseases. On the other hand, the link between skin cancer and the sun is proven and well documented. As a dermatologist at the front line of skin cancer, I simply cannot recommend deliberate sun exposure as a safe means of getting vitamin D. Rather look to getting your vitamin D from other sources such as supplementation. Until we know more about the evidence regarding what the optimal levels of vitamin D are and how best to achieve these levels, rather make protecting your skin the priority. Living in South Africa means getting used to wearing lots of sunscreen. Choose carefully and apply religiously. And don't forget about protective clothing, wide brim hats, and trying to stay out of the sun between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Enjoy our beautiful sunny climate, but enjoy it safely.